Good morning, everybody. My talk is about the retinal detachment associated with wild retinitis. A very difficult surgery to handle, but if you know the nuances, probably it will be easier for you to take up these cases with more confidence. I have no financial disclosures. We'll first deal with acute retinal necrosis. As you know, it's usually seen in immunocompetent young adults. It starts as a small patch, one or more discrete foci in the periphery of retinal necrosis with occlusive vasculopathy, and then it progresses posteriorly as well as circumferentially with a prominent vitreous and antechamber reaction. And the triad of posterior segment changes involves vitritis, occlusive arteriolitis, and necrotizing retinitis, leading on to a devastating disease in the retina. You would all know that RD is seen in around 75 to 85% of the patients. So you know it's how dangerous this disease can be. And it occurs almost after 3 weeks. So within 3 weeks, that's the golden period that we have to treat the patient. And what happens to the vitreous? It contracts because of the severe inflammatory changes, and large retinal breaks develop between the involved and uninvolved retina. And usually you will see the fellow eye getting involved if it is not treated medically. And usually it's seen within 1 to 6 weeks. You can have vitreous hemorrhage, but it's quite uncommon because breaks are not seen in the breaks are seen in the necrotic avascular retina. But if it occurs, it's usually due to a new vessel disease, which can be treated with photocoagulation. The main management of AR involves control of infection and inflammation, restoration of the media clarity, and prevention of retinal detachment, and management of its complications. So medical management usually involves a confirmation of diagnosis with the AC tap or vitreous biopsy, and intravenous acyclovir is the standard treatment, along with systemic steroids. You don't give systemic steroids alone, and other therapies are also indicated. Laser is a little difficult in these situations because, as I said, there's a lot of vitreous reaction, and media opacity precludes laser. But if you're able to do, at least you do a 3 rows behind the active retinitis and at least 3000 microns from the fovea and 500 microns from the disc. And it's usually done in the first 3 weeks of the disease. However, difficulties, as I said, you face a hazy media, difficult to treat, there are large posterior breaks, and the retina actually progressively involves even the laser areas. And does really laser help? So there are studies which say yes, and when we studied, we found there's really no difference between the laser dye and non-laser dye. Retinal detachment, if it has to occur, it does occur. Retinal detachment, the features are quite typical. You have large atrophic breaks, usually at the junction of normal and inflamed retina. There's significant traction and epiretinal scarring, there's PVR, vitreous base fibrosis, and active retinitis goes along with this. So surgeries for ARN, usually it's very rare to do a scleral buckle, because if you have the ideal case where there are small breaks, a single coordinate, and minimal vitritis which allows you to treat the patient with buckle, that's great. But usually you'll never end up doing that. You'll have to do vitrectomy because there's a lot of vitreous opacities, there's PVR which is already present, persisting inflammation, large posterior breaks. And the goals basically of vitrectomy are to remove the vitreous opacities, and also clear the vitreous traction, the PVR. So it could be diagnostic, optical, or therapeutic, and all 3 in 1 in a single surgery. Management, usually the most important thing is, often and all we try to avoid the lens, but in this case you have to remove the lens because, as I said, vitreous-based fibrosis is very common, and you need to do a very good vitreous-based shaving, and you have to support with an encyclic brand. So as I was saying, you can see there's already a PVD in these cases, but a little difficult to identify, and the vitreous is quite opacified. So that's the most important thing. And generally what happens is, if there's a lot of areas of involved, the retina which is involved and it is scarred down is actually nothing like a fishnet. It uses tissue, and it will actually contract and cause a recurrent retinal detachment. And it's better to cut these areas so that it prevents traction on the posterior retina, which is what we need in these cases ultimately. So you see, this is the sieve-like retina that you have, which has got no life of its own. So it's best to do a retinotomy and just release it from the posterior retina. And usually you will need a long-acting tamponade, and sometimes yes, you will try to go for a high viscosity silicone oil. The surgical challenges in ARN cases are basically PVD. One is because of the vitreous opacities, it's difficult to really know the difference between the vitreous, posterior vitreous and the retina. So PVD induction, if it is there, I mean PVD is already there, it's easy. But if it is not there, you have to be a little careful while doing vitrectomy. There are multiple posterior breaks. The retina is thin. There is peripheral PVR, posterior pucker, there's exaggerated post-inflammatory response, and always remember there is active retinitis going along. So you try to induce a PVD over active retinitis, it's very difficult. Surgical outcome is basically depending on the amount of PVR and vitreous retraction which is often present. There's a lot of post-inflammatory sequelae. You can see macular pucker and optic atrophy and macular ectopia. So the gist is you have anti-PVR which causes a tractional RD in the periphery and hypotony, and a posterior PVR which causes again a tractional RD and a macular pucker which compromises the visual prognosis. Next we come to CME retinitis. As you know, this is in exact contrast to ARN. We have an immunocompromised patient, hardly vitreous reaction, hemorrhagic retinitis, and sometimes you have a frosted branch pattern and a very poor response to acyclovir therapy. So generally the RD develops because there are holes in the gliotic scar, there is a syneretic vitreous, and then you have vitreous traction just and a break at the edge of the atrophic scar, and usually you will not have a PVD, and then you get a retinal detachment. The time course of retinal detachment could be any time after it heals. So there's no really time gap, just like in ARN. And it's difficult to identify the breaks basically, because once the areas of retina which are involved heal up, it's a lack of contrast. It's very difficult to see a break preoperatively. And there's hardly any vitritis, no PVR. The RD may be localized or total, and sometimes you have an exudative RD. So it's a little difficult. You have ongoing inflammation which has been treated, and you have a residual RD, which you don't know whether it's exudative or tractional. Medical management, you have systemic ganciclovir, and if patient is an HIV patient, on heart therapy. The most important comes, a role of a VR surgeon comes when you have to treat the RD. Demarcation laser, unlike in ARN, where there was some role, here usually has a doubtful role. Scleral buckle, again, very rare cases, when the ideal case is there. Vitrectomy in most cases. Similarly, retinectomy as in ARN is necessary to remove the atrophic retina, which is useless. And long-acting tamponade is necessary. So as I told you, PVD is really difficult. So since it's a clear media, again you have a difficulty inducing PVD, but once you get the PVD, it's easy to manage. But you don't try to induce a PVD beyond the normal retina, because the scarred retina, there are dense adhesions. As you can see in the lower video, the vitreous is not being pulled across onto the atrophic retina. Up to that you have to shave. So shave the vitreous as much as possible over the atrophic retina. Don't try to induce a PVD. Identifying the break is important, and one clue is that you have Schlieren. If you look at the area where you can start seeing Schlieren, as you see in the upper half of the video, that is your primary break. And once you get the breaks, then obviously you start doing laser and atrophic retina, and also, as I said, again emphasize retinectomy to remove atrophic retina, which is not necessary. But most often this atrophic retina is stuck to the choroid, so you don't have to really do retinectomy. Encerclage, again, as I said, is optional. And long-term tamponade if the patient is not on heart therapy. If the patient is on heart therapy, usually we can get by with a short-term tamponade. And silicone oil can be removed later on along with cataract surgery if needed. Anatomical vision prognosis, it's a good thing that we have at least 70% of retina we can reattach in these cases, and we have variations. This Jabs et al. Was before the heart therapy, so we have 20% ambulatory vision. But once the heart era started, we have almost up to 70% of the patients are getting good vision, ambulatory vision. So the factors predictive of a positive visual outcomes: early intervention, absence of macular retinitis, and healthy preoperative optic nerve. Thanks. As